Hello everyone, and welcome to Sakhir in Bahrain for another WCS GP race. Unfortunately, you have missed qualifying on this broadcast because we did have some technical issues. The broadcast was late to start and the cars are just lining up on the grid right now. So unfortunately you've missed qualifying, but I'm going to run through the order now. Once I assign a camera button, actually, that would be okay. You can tell that I've just come from having some mad technical issues, but anyway, on pole we have Jonathan Holmes, who should sort of, according to some people, be leading the championship now, because in terms of actual points, Jonathan Holmes is right at the top of the list, but due to drop scores, he's actually not leading the championship. He's currently second instead. In second we have Stefan Ruhl, followed by Danny van der Neert, Matthew Williams, who I think is making his debut today, Niels Brugman, our championship leader when drop scores come into play, although fascinatingly, seeing as he missed the first round, he's actually 6th on points, despite leading the championship. And of course we've had 4 races so far, and the worst results from 2 of those races are dropped. And the 2 races he did do, he won, meaning that at the top of the order he has almost a perfect score, and he would have a perfect score if he'd qualified pole and got fastest lap in both races last time out, which he didn't manage, but he did win both races. So Niels Brugman is leading the championship due to drop scores, despite only having the 6th most points. In 6th place we have Antonio Jelenovic, followed by Lauren Kiersmakers, Menno Klont, who is actually ill today, so it's good to see that he's made it to the grid, and I hope that doesn't restrict him too much. Patrick Kreis, Dan Hutt, Kai Engelsiepen, there you go. Gerrit de Vries, Simon Frelick, who spun. Frelick spins on the formation lap, and that's going to bite quite a lot out of his tyres, which is a shame, but let's hope it didn't do too much damage and he can still regain his rightful grid position. Then we have Tristan Potters, Fabian Ruder. So Potters and Ruder, who are very good friends actually. Of course, both came from the Rowan GP team from the GPVWC. They line up 14th and 15th. 16th is Jacob Pegg, and then 17th is Ryan Nash, followed by Rink Hoekstra, Casper Onwin, Eric Stanford, Jarrett Janet, and Roland Hutt. So that is the order as we are heading down towards the start line to get going. So Jonathan Holmes is going to line up in first position here. And then the rest of the pack is going to stream in after him. And then we can get this race underway. So we're just heading to the grid. Of course, we're going to have to wait for the back of the grid to also line up before we can actually get underway. But the front end of the grid, at least, is in place. This will be the last car in place. This will be Roland Hutt lining up at the back. And he lines up right now. There we go. He's in his place, and it looks as if we've had Shimon Frelick regaining his rightful grid position as well. So we're just waiting for the lights to come on now. And they're waiting quite a while. Here they come. So 3, 4, 5. Watch for them to go out. Now, and the race gets underway. So, will it be Stefan Ruhl who takes the inside line down into turn 1? I think it might be, you know. He's had a good start there compared to Jonathan Holmes. He pulls ahead even before the corner. Holmes had a look to the inside. Ruhl looks up slightly. But it is Royal who leads out of turn 1. Has everyone made it through? No, there's a front wing missing. Whose is that? Oh dear, there's a crash. Rick Hoekstra is involved, as is Shimon Frelich, I believe, and Roland Hurt has lost his front wing. Let's go back through the order and check who's off. So Hoekstra was involved, Hurt was involved, Frelich was involved, as I said. Now let's look through to see who lost their front wing at the start, because I'm sure there was a front wing lying on the road. Well, there you see Roland Hurt, who we knew had lost his front wing. No, it looks as if it might just have been a little bit of bodywork from the rear end of the car, of one of these cars. Of course, they do have 2 detachable flaps at the rear. And it's Stefan Ruhl leading from Jonathan Holmes, Danny van der Neert, Matthew Williams, Niels Brugman, Antonio Jelenovic, Lauren Keersmakers, Menno Klont, Patrick Kraus, and Kai Engelsiepen for the top 10. So that is the order so far, as we just saw Brugman being attacked slightly by Jelenovic. Jelenovic certainly had a slight look there. But will Jonathan Holmes be able to do anything about our race leader Stefan Ruhl in the slipstream as we head down this straight? Of course, immediately following this straight is another straight as well, so it's a good track for slipstreaming here, especially this sector of the circuit. So let's see whether Ruhl and Holmes can have a battle here, as we see Brugman and Jelenovic fighting over 5th, and Jelenovic demotes our championship leader, but Brugman is coming straight back at him here with the switchback. Brugman and Jelenovic going side by side for 5th place as we head down the straight. And let's look at the leaders. The leaders possibly going side by side, although Ruhl leaves his braking late enough to defend the position. Who's going to come out ahead for 5th position? Whoa, spin! It's Niels Brugman. So Niels Brugman hopped over the inside curb, spun the car around, and now, after a good recovery, he's recovered in 8th position behind Klont and Keersmakers. So he's lost 2 positions in that. And he was, of course, going for 1. He was going for 5th position. And our championship leader, unfortunately, is now down to 8th position. So that's a shame for Niels Brugman. Of course, he was thrilling in the wet last time out at Sao Paulo. But it looks as if he's struggling a bit today, especially with that spin. And now it's about him trying to find his way back through the order. Is everyone still running? Right, well, we got Roland Hurt in the pits after he lost his front wing. And then also a long way behind the order, I'm afraid, is Shimon Frelich. And then you get to the actual order, as I think Ryan Nash has just had a spin, because he was moving slowly there. And I believe that's it for the incidents on the first lap. Ruder and Potters up to 12th and 11th respectively. That's a good start. They're having a bit of a battle over that position themselves here. Will Ruder go to the outside? The 2 very good friends, both from the Netherlands. Potter's about 4 or 5 years older than Ruder, but still side by side as we head up the top of the hill. Ruder has the inside, and it's a good move from Fabian Ruder to make his way up into 11th position. Will Potters come back at him? It looks as if he will up the inside. I'm just going to quickly check I haven't missed anything up the front. It doesn't look like I have. And Potters is going to get that place immediately back again and blocks the outside line. That's exactly what he needed to do to stop Ruder from getting the switchback. Now Ruder's going to have to use the slipstream. This is brilliant to watch. As Ruder pokes to the outside, Potters defends the inside line. And it looks as if Potters is going to keep that. There's a slight lockup, and that's going to remove quite a lot of Potters' momentum here. And they're still side by side as we head up through the... Oh, spin in the background. 2 spins. Around goes Stanford and Hoekstra. They were fighting over 16th. Stanford's gone around again while trying to get going. And that's a shame there. Meanwhile, at the front of the order, we've had pretty much no change there. Except Klont has... Oh, he's just locked up, actually. He's just been demoted by Niels Brugman. That's for 7th. We expected that would happen. But was Jacob Pegler's a big twitch. The real big talking point there... Oh, dear. Hoekstra is going off. Now, what has happened there? Has he lost... It looks as if he'd lost all sorts of downforce there, but he doesn't appear to have lost any physical parts on his car as he gets passed by Casper Unwin now. So that's bit of a weird one, as unfortunately we've lost Roland Hurt. But what will happen in the battle for 2nd, because it looks as if Van der Neert is starting to line up Jonathan Holmes here for 2nd in the race. So this will definitely be one to keep an eye on. There's a big chain of cars behind these 2 as well. Matthew Williams and Antonio Jelenovic both poised to pounce behind these 2 battling cars for 2nd and 3rd. Holmes is moving over to the left side of the circuit or the right side rather, to try to break the slipstream of Danny van der Neert. Now, if Van der Neert was properly on the attack here, which he should be at this point, seeing as he's being attacked from behind, he probably should have followed Holmes across and gone to the outside line. But Van der Neert electing not to for whatever reason now, and Holmes keeps the position, although it looks as if Holmes braked slightly early there. Van der Neert was wondering whether to pull out for a move there or not. You could certainly tell by the body language of his car that that was what he was considering. And Matthew Williams is now looking very, very fierce on the rear of Danny van der Neert. Of course, our Megané Trophy class, championship leader is Matthew Williams, but he's trying out the single-seaters today and is obviously no less quickened. Now, as we head down the back straight, it looks as if Van der Neert is braking slightly later than Holmes. You just see the front end of the car dip down slightly later compared to the actual point on the track. And I'm wondering whether Holmes is trying to go conservative here and whether the cars behind are on an attacking strategy at this early point in the race. As Holmes again pulls out of the slipstream, you see that tactic from Jonathan Holmes, although he makes sure he's in position to brake for the final corner. And you see that sort of defensive style of driving there from Jonathan Holmes, and Van der Neert's followed him to the middle of the road here. In fact, Van der Neert's going to the outside line. That's going to be an ambitious one, and I don't think there's any real room there, unfortunately, for Danny van der Neert. To be honest, this is a very well-designed track in terms of slipstream, because you get 3 long straights, not really separated by that many corners, and then 3 tight corners to follow them. And Danny van der Neert not quite being able to capitalise on that this time round, but he has had a slight twitch there, which might put Matthew Williams in the driving seat for a possible overtake here. But looks slightly too far back for now. Looking at the championship on points, the order should be Holmes, De Vries, that's Sven De Vries, Van der Neert. Oh no, it should be Ruel third, followed by Van der Neert, and then Wopke Hoekstra, who has actually retired from this championship due to the fact he said he didn't really like these cars. And then it should be Niels Brugman in 6th. But due to drop scores, of course, Brugman is leading this championship. Talking of Brugman, where's he made his way up to now? He's still running in 7th, so he needs to make up 1 more position to... Well, actually, I don't know what I was trying to get at there. But anyway, Niels Brugman running in 7th for now. And then it's Menno Klont in 8th, just taking a quick rundown of the order. Oh, where's Fabian Ruder gone? Hutt and Pegg have got through, as has Kraus. Ruder is down to 15th. So there may have been some kind of incidental spin there, and now he's under attack from Ryan Nash, because he saw that Ruder was on the back of... Ooh, that's a bit wiggly from Simon Frelick. Has he got damage? Ooh, that car did not look happy to turn in there. That's not a healthy looking car. It appears to be wobbling around quite a lot. Oh, look at that! Something is wrong with that car, I'm afraid. Also, we have lost Eric Stanford, that's a shame, and Roland Hutt, who I mentioned earlier. So, 2 retirements so far in this race. Hopefully, we don't get any more. Now, of course, Niels Brugman's advantage in the championship is really exaggerated by the fact that there are drop scores in play, and I can imagine that as more drivers have bad weekends as the championship progresses, that's going to very much even itself out again, and he might well be cursing the fact he missed the first round by the end of this championship. You can tell already in this round that he's not right at the front of the field like he was last time out. It might have been that last time out he was just by far the best in the rain. So to keep his championship challenge alive, he might well be wanting a few more wet races as the season progresses. Of course, last time out was very wet. Both races were pretty damp, and Brugman, of course, excelled in those tricky conditions and won both races by quite a long way. Of course, the second race from 10th on the grid. Now, you see Holmes going defensive again. Van der Neert and Williams both following him in the slipstream, but still not quite getting close enough. Really, they need a mistake from Jonathan Holmes. A lot of drivers have been criticising these cars for being pretty stressful to drive and even more stressful to follow, because following them with all of the dirty air of the car ahead gets rather difficult sometimes, and of course it means you lose quite a lot of aerodynamic grip through the corners, which makes it very difficult to pull an overtake, because in the corners the car ahead just pulls away. And you can see, talking of pulling away, that the leader Stefan Röhl has built up a brilliant lead over Jonathan Holmes so far. That's a very big lead. Let's see what the gap is. Through the last checkpoint it was 3.2 seconds, so that is definitely... Did I just see him move around? I thought I just saw him move around this place in the order. Obviously not. But anyway, you can see that was a very big gap, about 3 seconds. And in racing, any amount of time is a big amount, especially when it goes into seconds rather than just tenths of a second. And that gap will be coming out and out, as look at Jonathan Holmes. He's feeling like he feels the need to go very defensive very early in the straight. Slight lock-up from Van der Neert there. And that shows that Van der Neert is really putting pressure on Jonathan Holmes here. As Holmes, you can see him immediately. As soon as he's touched the curb on the outside of the corner before, he's already pulling across to the inside just to stop Van der Neert from getting to the inside. But it's not worked this time. Van der Neert's going to the inside. This is for second place in the race. And Van der Neert puts the power down, and they're still side by side through turn 3. Van der Neert gets ahead. So Van der Neert gets ahead, and now look at Matthew Williams. Matthew Williams is going for third place to the inside of Jonathan Holmes. But Holmes is just able to keep that, but he's run very, very wide. I saw a slight lock-up. He very nearly found a lot of grip that he wasn't expecting, and very nearly shot across straight back into Matthew Williams there. But both of those cars have got through. Van der Neert to second, Williams to third, and Holmes is down to fourth already. So obviously the qualifying pace he had, he's not really being able to translate into race pace as well as the other 3 ahead of him have been able to so far. And now Laurent Kiersmaker is just behind him. Oh wait, that's Antonio Frelianovic. But anyway, he had a large lock-up there. And maybe sniffing his chance of a 4th place, possibly a podium. There was a big lock-up in the background. That might have been... I think that was just leftovers from Frelianovic going through, actually. Looking down the order further, we've got a big gap between 9th and... Oh, big spin for Dan Hut. Does he keep it? What a save from Dan Hut. It's going to cost him a lot of time, but it's a very good save from Dan Hut not to go around and lose even more time. That's a very good recovery. So Dan Hut doing very well there, as Fabian Ruder is back up into 14th position ahead of Casper Unwin. So as Rink Hoekstra is pitted. Now, there is a mandatory pit stop in this race, so this might well be scheduled. It's a bit early, as Patrick Kraus, unfortunately, is out of the race, as is Shimon Frelich. We saw Frelich struggling with what I expect was damage earlier in the race, and he is now in the pits. And, of course, out of the race. So we've had 4 retirements so far, I'm afraid. These WCS GP races, unfortunately, do tend to be a bit incident-packed, and they do tend to be a bit attrition hit. So that's unfortunate, but it does mean that if you can finish the race, it's very important to finish the race, because so many people drop out that there's a very high chance that you'll score points if you finish. So, oh, big lock-up, and Matthew Williams is running over the curve on the outside. Now watch Jonathan Holmes. Holmes will be sniffing his podium back again. He's going to the outside, and with that mistake by Matthew Williams, the move that he's just made might well be in complete jeopardy, but he's just managed to keep it to the inside here. Holmes gets the switch back, and unless he can get it back in this sector, I think that might well be it for Holmes' attack for now. Maybe until after the pit stages. And with Williams holding up Holmes with this defence, Antonio Frelianovic looks even bigger behind Jonathan Holmes than he did before, and he might well be going for a move soon. There's a lock-up, actually, for Krelenovic. And that might well be setting him up badly for this straight. If he just kind of made it a bit smoother around that last corner, he might have been able to set himself up for a good slipstream. But I'm afraid for him that might not work this time. But still, he's pulling out, as is Holmes. Holmes went to the inside, but I think that was more just showing himself to Williams' mirrors. And Williams went slightly wide at turn 1 that time through. Of course, Matthew Williams won one of the Megané races we held at Bahrain when we did the paddock layout. The other race, incidentally, was won by Roy Schroten, who isn't here today. Although Schroten, of course, did do the early part of the season with Racing Team Schroten, but he has pulled out of this series, as has Wopke Hoekstra, as I mentioned earlier. And Hoekstra was really battling for the championship, so it's a shame for Hoekstra. He was running in 7th position in the championship, but he was on points 5th and got a podium at Dubai, but he's just decided that these cars are not for him, and he hasn't actually found a second driver for that seat, as Krelenovic had a quick look at Holmes and then had a lock up. So we've seen Krelenovic locking up quite a few times in this race so far. I wonder whether his tyres are going to be shot by the time he goes to make a pit stop. I very much hope not, but that might well be the case, I'm afraid. Also, I think we might have lost Meno Klont Wopke Hoekstra from this race. Let me just check. Unfortunately, we have. So 5 retirements already, Meno Klont Wopke Hoekstra being the latest one. And, well, let's hope there aren't any more. But I said that after every retirement so far, and there always has been more. Oh, Stefan Roth is really building out a big lead here at the front of the order. What's the gap? It is 5.1 seconds. 5 seconds is the gap where you really don't have to worry about the car behind. You can really start to just conserve your tyres, think about not making any silly mistakes, not dropping back too much, and you're fine, really. So long as he keeps ahead in the pit stages, Roth has this race in the bag, so long as he doesn't make any mistakes. Slight twitch from Matthew Williams, but all is fine. Lock up for the front right. Of course, these cars being single-seaters running slick tyres, they can't afford too many lock-ups. Ooh, like that one. Because it really does flat spot the tyres. The tyres become 50 pence pieces. And, of course, every lock-up you do multiplies the flat spot, because the tyres will always rest in the same place due to path of least resistance, and as a result it can sometimes end up becoming undrivable. So you really want to lock up the tyres as little as you possibly can, as few times as you can manage. And Stefan Roth is becoming an absolute dot in the distance. So, what are the gaps at the front of the order? So the gap to the lead is now 5.7 seconds. The gap to second... Oh, into the pits comes Jonathan Holmes. So Holmes is the first of our front runners to pit. I expected he'd be pitting rather later, actually, seeing as he was driving quite defensively, and it didn't look as if he was actually attacking. It looked as if he was conserving the tyres. So I was wondering whether he'd go for a longer stint to start off with, and then a shorter stint at the end, but it's going to be the other way round. It's going to be pretty much equal length, actually, but still about 2% of the race to go before we reach half-time. He's coming out in 9th! Whoa! And on cold tyres, very nearly loses control of the car. Now that would have been big in terms of the race order, and indeed the championship order, because Holmes, of course, is second in the championship at the moment. If we were going on pure points, he'd be leading the championship. Due to drop scores, of course, he's 7th behind Niels Brugman. But he almost threw away this race there. Or at least that position. Slight lock-up from Tristan Potters. And Gerrit de Vries, I think, has just emerged from the pits. Also in the pits, Fabian Rude. Now, we suspect he had a spin or an incident earlier in the race. So it might be that he's deciding to be one of the first pitters, simply to get those shod tyres off. Those shot tyres off, rather. Now, will Stefan Royal pit this time round? Yes, he does. So Stefan Royal pits at basically the halfway point of this race. So that appears to be a good time to pit. I expect we're going to be seeing a lot more pit stoppers this time around. As past and into the lead goes Danny van der Neert. But of course, van der Neert is yet to stop as... Oh, actually, Ryan Nash is a lap down, isn't he? So Niels Brugman now goes up into second position, going for a different strategy to the guys around him to try to sort his way to the front of the order. Royal has pitted, Williams has pitted, Schrelanrich has pitted, Keersmakers has pitted, Engelsiepen has pitted. Holmes has already pitted, of course. What about Dan Hutt? He's the next guy in the top 10. Does he pit this time around or does he not? He took a slightly shallow line through that corner, so I'm wondering whether he will pit. Yes, he does. So Dan Hutt pulls into the pit. And quite a few of our top 10 runners did pit that time around. Now, looking up the front of the order, it's Danny van der Neert leading us around, but he is yet to stop. So van der Neert will probably stop either this lap or a lap very shortly. I'm not entirely sure how long the tyres can last in this series, but often if you see the drivers pitting at around the halfway point, that means the tyres can't really last very long. Because a lot of the time the ideal strategies are biased to one side of the halfway point or the other, because they will either try to go for a longer stint and gain track position that way to start off the race, or they will go for a shorter stint, put on the fresh tyres early and get the track position in that way, as van der Neert takes a shallow line, and I think he will be pitting. He does. So van der Neert pits from the lead of this race, possibly in response to having seen a couple of backmarkers ahead of him. Fabian Rude was the next one on track, although he would have had to pit around this time anyway. Locks his tyres up as he heads into the pits, that's all fine. Niels Brugman now leads the race, so our championship leader leads the race, but he, of course, is yet to stop. Van der Neert exits the pits. He's about to be demoted by Roel and Klont, who don't pit, and Roel has a look at Klont. Of course, Roel has already pitted, and he's actually being held up now by Menno Klont. You saw that he was certainly looking all over the rear end of Menno Klont as they head down into turn 1, and now Roel going very attacking, taking a very attacking line to the outside of Klont, who locks up and goes, oh, I thought he was going to slide right into him. Klont certainly locked up. Now he really blocks his position there. He locked up, put the car sideways. I thought he was going to spin straight into Roel and spin them both. Luckily, that was not the case. Very good avoidance from Menno Klont not to hit Stefan Roel there. I really thought he would, and I've got no idea how he's still ahead of Stefan Roel. Of course, these two on completely different strategies, but this could be dramatic in terms of the race, because Roel is losing a lot of time behind Menno Klont here, and that could play into the hands of the drivers around Roel on the track. I don't think Roel is going to lose quite enough time to drop behind Danny van der Neert, who was running in second, but he will certainly lose some time here, and he will hope that Menno Klont pits this time around. Now, does he get the slipstream down this penultimate straight? He'll certainly hope so, because he'll want to get past Menno Klont as soon as possible, just in case Klont does not pit. Takes a brief look, but doesn't find a way past. And Klont does not pit, so Klont stays out another lap, much to the disappointment of Stefan Roel. And Roel is going to have to find his way past Klont manually. He's going to the outside now, as he got the slipstream from Menno Klont's car. He's going to have to outbrake him here, or hope that Klont goes straight on. Klont locks up, and he struggles to put the power down, and now Stefan Roel gets through this contact. Klont turned in slightly too hard there, too early, and touched the rear end of Stefan Roel. They both ran off, trying to avoid their cars from spinning, which they both did do. Incidentally, Niels Brugman didn't pit that time around either, but somehow they didn't end up having an accident, and Roel has got past Menno Klont properly now. Van der Neert, of course, also pitted, as have Holmes, Williams, Schrelanrich, Keersmakers, Engelsiepen, and so I'm not sure if De Vries has pitted or not. I think he pitted first. Yeah, he did. Slightly squirrely into that corner. I believe that all of these guys pitted. In fact, Jarek Janate, I think, hasn't. So will Janate pit this time around? No. But he was certainly behind his teammate Tristan Potter's last time I looked. So whether he's pulled a move on track or whether he just hasn't pitted yet, I'm not entirely sure. Now if we go up to the front end of the order, let's watch Niels Brugman. Does he pit this time around? He's got a bit of traffic in front of him. He'll be getting a bit of dirty air. To be honest, Niels Brugman, I'd be surprised if he doesn't pit this time around. Slight lock-up from Ryan Nash. Does he pit? Yes, he does. So Niels Brugman into the pits this time around, and I believe that will probably be the fate of Menno Klont as well, as Van der Neert now has demoted Menno Klont and is right on the tail of Stefan Ruhl. So that is for position on track, and Stefan Ruhl has really seen his advantage absolutely carved into now as Klont pits, and Klont will end up about 8th. That's where he was before he pitted. And that's where he will probably end up now. Actually, I think he's lost a bit of time here, actually, because, well, he's in 8th now. Will he lose a place to Engelsiepen? I think he might well do. So Engelsiepen out of the final corner. Klont's got going now. It's going to be close. Although I think Engelsiepen's going to get it here. You see Klont's name at the end of the pits here, and they're going to come out absolutely side by side. But Engelsiepen is going to have the momentum into turn 1, and Engelsiepen gets 8th position from Menno Klont in the pit stages. He has jumped him. So good job from Engelsiepen. And interestingly, Keersmakers now has dropped behind Niels Brugman. So Brugman is up into 6th position in the pit stages. So running down the order after those pit stages, we have Ruhl leading from Danny van der Neert. What's the gap there? 0.5 of a second. It's half a second. Very close. Then it's Holmes, Williams, Kjellanovic, Brugman, Keersmakers, Engelsiepen, Klont, De Vries, Hutt, Potters, Janet, so Potters has got ahead of Janet again, Peg, Unwin, Rude, off has gone Ryan Nash. I believe he's lost his front wing. He has. So Nash is going to have to pit again, and then out of the race we've got Hoekstra, Kraus, Frelick, Stanford and Roland Hutt. Now, a big name in terms of the championship is Sven de Vries, but of course Sven de Vries is missing from this race. His brother, actually I don't think he's his brother at all. No, he isn't, because they're from completely different countries. But his surname sharer, Gerrit de Vries, is in the race. But Sven de Vries, who on points is 2nd in the championship, but after drop scores is 5th, is actually not here. So that's a big name in terms of the championship who isn't here today. And I'm wondering whether he'll be here for the other rounds of the championship. It would be a big shame if he wasn't. But anyway, that's very good news for Niels Brugman and Jonathan Holmes to try to extend their championship lead over him. Of course, also technically ahead of him in the championship are Wesley Stefano, who is also not here today, and Danny van der Neert. So a couple of big names missing from the race in Stefano and De Vries, and then of course we also have Hoekstra missing, to mean that about 3 of the top 7 in the championship are missing today, which is a shame. Unfortunately, a lot of these drivers have been criticising the cars and saying that they are not really very fun to drive, even though to drive a car like this in a championship setting is never really dull at all, and I would certainly recommend it. I mean, I haven't driven this car. Actually, I did. I drove it once. But I do some racing with the WCS League. I'm in the Megané Trophy, and it is a lot of fun. So if you can join this club and you're into sim racing, I would certainly suggest doing so. It's a great club, racing feel, good community, mainly Dutch or English. As I'm just going to have to sort out my headset quickly because half of it has just fallen apart, so I'm going to have to put it together quickly, and meanwhile not concentrate on the racing. I think that's... Oh, Jarek Janet's just pitted, so I did think that he'd been into the pits a while ago, or not been into the pits, as I'm waffling and trying to sort out my headset at the same time. I hope you can still hear me with my microphone all the way down there. Just call this some impromptu maintenance, but anyway, sorted out. And still the gap for the lead is very, very close. It's actually 0.3 of a second, so less than half a second rather, and that is the gap where they say you are properly in a battle and you are properly attacking. So we do have a real race for the lead here. And this will definitely be one to look out for. Also, we have a race for third as Holmes goes defensive from Williams. That's just to pull out of his slipstream and break the toe. Now, where did Jarrett Janet come out after that pit stop? He's come out in 16th position. So Janet in 16th behind Fabian Rueda, who gets raised into the point scoring positions, and also behind his teammate Tristan Potters, who is also in the point scoring positions in 12th. I saw a slight lock up there as they were all heading round the penultimate corner. So someone at the front of the field had a slight lock up. We are about 78% of the race through as we're starting lap 19. Watch Jonathan Holmes going defensive in the background. That's just again to break the toe. It's not really that he feels Williams is close enough to pull a move, but Van der Neert is very close now to Stefan Rühl. And this could change at any moment. All it takes is for Rühl to make one mistake, maybe even miss a gear. And now Holmes is definitely under attack from Williams as well. So we have two battles here at the front of the order to keep an eye on, and you don't really know where to look a lot of the time. Van der Neert chasing Rühl, Williams chasing Holmes. And then we also have a couple more battles down through the order as well. Ooh, slight lock up there from Van der Neert as he went through turns 9 and 10, the very difficult double left-hander, which everyone seems to hate except Fabian Rueda, interestingly. Holmes went very defensive again. He's just trying to break that toe and stop Williams getting close to him. I'm wondering whether Holmes thinks that Williams has the faster race pace here. That certainly appeared to be the case in the first stint. And now, of course, Holmes certainly appears to be very, very cautious of Matthew Williams' pace, because he's certainly trying to reduce it. Now, will Van der Neert get a good run on Stefan Rühl as we head down the start-finish straight this time round? Or will there be a move for third position? As Unwin and Rueda fight as well. I believe that's over 14th position. Now, was there a move at all? Not up the front of the field. Although they are still absolutely very close. Now, the difficulty when they approach battling backmarkers, like you're seeing them doing now with Rueda and Unwin fighting up ahead, is that neither of them really want to give up any time or give way. So, of course, they still have to abide by the blue flag rules, but they'll be trying to make it as difficult as possible as they can for you, as Rueda pokes to the outside of Unwin there and has a look there, but doesn't get through. He's having another attack now, is he, as we head down into turns 9. Oh my word! Rühl spins! So Rühl, it looks as if Rueda had a slight spin there, or a slight slide, while battling with Unwin, and then Rühl had a spin in avoidance, and now Danny Van der Neert takes the lead as Rühl ran over the inside, almost came straight back into Fabian Rueda, and that has been a change in the order through no fault of Fabian Rueda's. I think it was Rueda who spun. Rueda and Unwin have very similar paint schemes. It looks as if they both got away all right, although Unwin ahead of Rueda as they were before. But that has changed the order at the front of the field in very dramatic fashion, as Rühl took a trip over the inside of the corner, trying to avoid the spinning car of Fabian Rueda, who did very well to save it, actually. And Rühl also did very well to save it, and although, unfortunately for him, has lost a place to Danny Van der Neert through no real fault of his own, as Van der Neert pulls out of the slipstream of Casper Unwin and gets past him. Unwin goes wide, and also lets through Stefan Rühl now. So Unwin and Rueda now have Holmes and Williams to let through. Rueda lets through Holmes nicely, sees him there. I was wondering whether he would initially, because he started to move slightly over, but he saw him. Now, does he get out of the way of Williams before the S's? Oh, he really should have done that, but of course doesn't want to concede any more time to... Oh, there's contact! Rueda slightly slower through the S's than Williams was, and Rueda gets touched in the rear there by Matthew Williams. Williams possibly a little bit impatient, although Ruda certainly should have given way before those S's there, and Ruda going slightly wide here, as I believe Onwin did as well. But Williams has certainly lost time to Holmes there in that, and that might well be the battle for third over for now, and possibly for good, as we're almost 90% of the race in. I think I'll keep this this overlay on screen now, seeing as otherwise I'm probably going to miss the end. Also, it might well be that the end comes prematurely, because what we've seen before in the series, as unfortunately we've also lost Ryan Nash now, so only 16 cars remain in this race. What's happened before is that the race is ended prematurely due to the time running out. Australianovic has a slight slide, and now he has to try to demote Onwin and Ruda, as Ruda has now got past Onwin, and Onwin is trying to get straight back through using the slipstream, and they're going 3 wide here down the back straight almost, with Onwin in the slipstream of Ruda. He's going to the inside. Australianovic trying to get around the outside of both of them, does so, and Ruda keeps the place for 14th. So, I've completely forgotten what I was saying. Oh yeah, of course, this race is also timed. I believe it's 40 minutes. So it's 24 laps or 40 minutes, whichever comes first. And a lot of the time, that means that the race can suddenly end without warning. And I'm not entirely sure what time we have left. Maybe Race View will show me that. I'm going to check quickly. It does not. So, unfortunately, I can't check there. Now, seeing as we only have 16 cars remaining in the race, that means that so long as you beat any finisher here in this race, you will score a point. So it's all about finishing the race now. I said it would be earlier on, and it looks very much as if it will be, as Potters and Pegg appear to be quite close in terms of time as well. This is the battle for 12th position. Pegg's really been close to Potters for this entire race, really. Although he's never quite been as close as this, apart from right at the start of the race. So whether Pegg is launching... Well, I think Pegg is launching a late race attack here on Tristan Potters. Whether he'll be able to get through or not in time is a different matter, but he's certainly got the slipstream here as we head towards turn 1 into the hairpin. Potters spins up the rear wheels a bit. That might lose him a bit of momentum, and Pegg might well get the slipstream here as we head down up to turn 3. Although Potters appears to be a little bit more confident on the entry to that corner. Now Jacob Pegg just has to stick with Potters through the S's. Hope that Potters makes a slight mistake, possibly locks up somewhere or something like that. And then he can launch an attack to the inside. Now, I think there is a slight lock up there from Potters, so will Pegg be able to get a good run onto this back straight? I don't think he's quite going to get close enough here. He doesn't quite, but he's certainly looking like he wants to have an attack at some point. The gap for the lead has not come down, that's still at about a second. 6th and 7th is interesting. Keersmakers has found some pace now and is chasing down Niels Brugman. They've just passed the battling duo of Ruda and Onwin, and Ruda appears to have built out a bit of a gap from Onwin now as he goes slightly wide into the final sector there up the hill, as the race is very nearly over. In fact, I'm going to switch to the front of the order. Does the race end this time around, or does it not? Will Danny van der Neer win it as he crosses the line this time? No, he has one more lap to go. So the time does not run out in time. It was on 99%. And if these cars have been slightly slower on that last lap, it might well have become, or on a couple of laps in this race, it might well have become the last lap then. In fact, now it takes 100%. It did as they were going through turn 2. So really not much in it, but they are going to do one more lap, and it's van der Neer leading from Ruhl. And what was the gap that time round? It was 8 tenths, so Ruhl is launching an attack. Ruhl has brought the gap down by 2 tenths of a second, and it might well be that Ruhl capitalises on any mistake now that van der Neer might make. All van der Neer has to do is hang on to the position and not make any silly mistakes on this final lap of the race. They've got a couple of backmarkers coming up as well. So Ruhl will be hoping to pressure him forwards into those backmarkers. There is a slight lockup from Van der Neert. Does Ruhl get a better run out of that corner? Well, he would have done even marginally. But does he manage to get to actually get close enough? I don't think he will here. Oh, he goes slightly wide. So Ruhl goes slightly wide. And that might well compromise his run up the hill. And as we head through the penultimate corner, there's a lockup from Van der Neert. Does he go wide? No, he doesn't. But there was a slight lockup. Ruhl runs it very nicely over the curb. He's in the slipstream. He has one more overtaking opportunity. I don't think he's close enough. Final corner, and he isn't close enough. So long as Van der Neert can put the power down, Van der Neert exits the final corner, and he is going to cross the line on the inside here to win the race. There he goes. So Van der Neert wins race 1 from Stefan Ruhl. Pegg and Potters are side by side. That's for 12th, I think. Jonathan Holmes is 3rd, just from Matthew Williams. That was very close. Srijanovic is 5th. 6th is Niels Brugman, who was our championship leader. I don't think he's our championship leader anymore, but I can't confirm that until I see the results with drop scores. Laurent Kiersmakers is in 7th. He did finish. I was just checking that quickly. Then it's going to be Kai Engelsiepen. Oh, spin! Menno Klont spun at the final corner. So Klont spins at the final corner. Does he lose? No, he won't lose a place to De Vries. De Vries is too far back here. Engelsiepen claims 8th. 9th is going to be Menno Klont, who crosses the line now after that spin. 10th is going to be Gerard De Vries, as he rounds the final corner, runs it out to the exit, and he's going to cross the line to claim a top 10 finish. There he goes. Dan Hutt is going to be 11th. So Hutt is going to cross the line now in the very orange car. And Potters has beaten Pegg because Pegg has had a spin. Now, whether they made contact or not, I'm not entirely sure. But it looks as if Tristan Potters is going to hang on to this after they were battling on that final lap of the race. We saw them going side by side down into turn 1. And Tristan Potters is going to claim 10th with Jacob Pegg probably in 11th. I don't think... Oh, no, Potters 12th and Pegg in 13th. Did Rida finish? Yeah, he was a lap down. Good. I thought he'd retired there. He hadn't, luckily. So Tristan Potters is going to cross the line now to claim 12th. There he goes. And Jacob Pegg is going to be our last finisher on the lead lap, who finishes in 13th there. Then also finishing in the points was Fabian Rida, claiming his first points of the season. So well done to Fabian. 15th was Casper Oindwin. And then just outside of the points on our final finisher, just so long as he did finish, yes he did, was Jarek Janet. And then we also had the retirements of Ryan Nash, Rick Hoekstra, Patrick Kraus, Simon Frelick, Eric Stanford, and Roland Hutt. Now, hopefully, everyone can make it in for race 2, and we can get a good race underway. So we're just going to take roughly 5-minute break now while the next warm-up session happens and the drivers take a brief break, and then we will be back for race 2. So do not go anywhere. If it's as exciting and dramatic as race 1 was at times, it will be a very good race.
Connected. User left your channel. Channel switched. Channel switched.
Rightio, welcome back. So it appears that, well, it doesn't just appear that the warm-up session has ended. The warm-up session has ended, and the drivers are now just making their way out onto the grid for race 2. It's a reverse top 10, so that means that if you finish 10th in the last race, you will start on pole, and if you finished in first in the last race, you will start 10th, and everyone in between you is next. So we have Gerrit de Vries leading, because he finished 10th in the last race. We have Menno Klont in 2nd, because he finished 9th in the last race. We have Kai Engelsiepen in 3rd place, followed by Laurent Keersmakers. Our champion, Niels Brugman, hoping for a much better result than he got in race 1, and he's in good position for it as well. Remember, he won from 10th place on the grid in Sao Paulo, and now he's starting 5th. Antonio Jelanovic, Matthew Williams, Jonathan Holmes, Stefan Rohr, Danny van der Neert, our race 1 winner, of course, Dan Hutt, Tristan Potters, Jacob Pegg, Fabian Rudet, Casper Oinwin, Jarrett Janet, Ryan Nash, Patrick Kraus, and Roland Hutt. So we're missing 3 drivers. One of them is Rian Hoekstra, who I've noticed immediately. Who else is missing? I'll have to kind of rack my brains to see if I can remember who else was in it. What if I don't think looking through that's going to be any good. Well, we've got 3 drivers missing, I'm afraid. So it's going to be a slightly smaller race too, but that does actually make it even more important for the championship, because despite the fact the race is shorter, it does actually provide the same amount of points as race 1, and of course well, there's fewer drivers. That means that you have more chance of points here. So this is a more significant race in terms of the championship than race 1 was, and it's got a pretty muddled up order as well due to a reverse grid. And race 2, of course, often provides a lot of action due to this this reverse grid. So let's see what befalls us. So, through the final sector of the course, Gerrit de Vries is just making his way around to the start-finish straight, and he will line up in first position. Also, I think I've remembered another driver who's missing. Is it Shimon Frelich? I don't see a Shimon Frelich. So, Frelich is another of our drivers missing. So, we've got Hoekstra and Frelich missing. Who else is missing? What about Ryan Nash? No, Nash is here. So I've identified 2 of the 3 drivers who's missing. There's another to go. Okay, well anyway, the drivers are lining up on the grid. Menno Klont just shooting ahead of de Vries, saying, "That's where I'm going to be in turn 1." As de Vries lines up in the wrong slot and now lines up in the right one. That would have just been to get a little practice start and warm his rear tyres slightly. Now, it's going to be Roland Hutt who lines up in last position after retiring first from the first race. So let's wait until he's in position, and then the lights can start to come on, and when they go out, we will be racing again at Interlagos. Let's watch for the lights. Here they come. 3, 4, 5. Watch for them to go out. Go! The race is underway, and it's a slow start from pretty much everyone at the front of the order. There's a bit of jostling in the middle. I think that there's a couple of cars coming through. Klont's going to have the inside for turn 1. And does he get it? Yes, he does. Bahrain has a habit of P2 leading into turn 1. So Klont leads. Is everyone through safely? Yeah, I think we are. So through turn 1 ever. Oh, our people's off. And I think those were some pretty significant cars in terms of the actual order as well. Holmes and Brugman. It's P1 and P2 in the championship. Or at least the people who were P1 and P2 in the championship coming into race 1. I don't know where they are now, but 2 significant drivers in the championship have gone off at turn 2 after tangling and are now 18th and 19th. That's dramatic. Now Klont runs wide and it's Keersmakers already up to 2nd. So Keersmakers is already up to 2nd, and Rowan Hutchinson already up to 3rd. What's happened to de Vries? He's down to 7th. So de Vries has had some kind of incident or spin or something. He's down to 7th. And Keersmakers is now going for the lead. He's got the inside of Menno Klont here as he goes for the lead into the final sector. Doesn't quite get it yet. Klont runs wide, but he spins! Klont loses the rear end, spins into Laurent Giersmakers, keeps control of the car just. And look at Krjalinovic now, who also spins. Ah, there's more contact. Royal goes round. Brilliant 360 recovery from Royal. But unfortunately, he's dropped down into 6th. Also off has gone Menno Klont. This is utterly dramatic up the front of the order. And to be honest, my voice hurts. Giersmakers leads it now. The ex-GPVWC Super League race winner. Followed by Antonio Krjalinovic. Then it's Klont, Williams, Ruel after his 360 spin. Amazing recovery from that. Van der Neert, our race 1 winner. Kraus, De Vries, our pole sitter, who is attacking, also going for an attack, is Van der Neert on Ruel. Ruel has a slight wiggle. Of course, these two fought over the lead last time out, before Ruel had a slide while trying to avoid Fabian Rude. And Kraus has now got past De Vries for 7th. So Patrick Kraus up into 7th, and that's a good start from Patrick Kraus as De Vries locks up, trying to get it back again. He runs wide and might lose a place to Dan Hurt. He does indeed. So Hurt gets up to 8th. And does De Vries lose a place to Engelsiepen? No, he doesn't. Engelsiepen's lost a couple of places here. After him in the order is Nash, Janate, Hurt, Brugman, who has made his way up past Holmes. And then it's Peg, Ruder, and Potters. Ruder and Potters like to battle, don't they? It looks as if they've had some kind of incident at the start of this race, though, because they're now behind Brugman and Holmes. And then out of the race, unfortunately, is Casper Untwin. So we've already lost one driver. Hopefully we don't lose any more. And it's still Giersmakers leading from Krjalinovic at the start. So as we head through the final sector of this second lap, will Krjalinovic be able to line up Laurent Giersmakers for a move later on in this lap? Well, not if he locks up like that, he won't. Of course, these cars are very easy to just snatch a break in. And we just saw Krjalinovic doing it. That's not going to give him the best of runs for this straight, as he won't have had the turn in that he wanted. He's actually locking up again, so that's a... Well, that will be the same tyre. Look at Klont. Klont's run off, and Matthew Williams is going to attack, and he's going to have the inside line and gets through pretty much immediately. But will Klont be able to get back through again using the slipstream? He's poking to the inside. Ruel's having a look as well. And Klont is going to get 3rd place back. I think he locks up slightly, runs wide. But does he cement his position? No, because Williams has the inside for turn 2. But then Klont's going to have it for turn 3. And also Ruel's going to have the inside line as well now. So Ruel also attacking Matthew Williams. And this could all change. Williams pulls to the inside. They might be going 3 wide. They are going 3 wide. But with a different car as Van der Neert loses it. So Van der Neert tried to go around the outside of all of them. Got out over the cold part of the circuit. Lost control of the car. And dropped back in a couple of seconds. Didn't drop back a position. But now Ruel has got past Matthew Williams. So the hunter, who looked as if he got up into 3rd position, has become the hunted, and he's dropped to 5th. So again, the order is Giersmakers, Krjalinovic, Klont, Ruel, and Williams at the start of this race. Dramatic start to this race, but that is the top 5 order, which could all be about to change. Ruel is having a look at Klont for 3rd position here. One way, then the next. He's got the switch back. Now we saw Klont. Oh, that's a big slide from Williams. And does he lose a place to Van der Neert? Not quite yet, but Van der Neert might launch an attack here. No, he doesn't. Of course, we saw Klont losing control of his car on that left-hander up the hill a few minutes ago. So it's a good job he didn't do that alongside Ruel. Ruel now pulling to the inside of the final corner. This is for 3rd position, although has to slot back behind Menno Klont as we head out through the final corner now. And Klont keeps the position. Great defence from Klont. I've seen that he's a very good defender who never really gives up. But Ruel manages to force his way to the inside as he goes for 3rd. Forces Klont to run wide, and now he will just be able to drag his way through, really, and he does so. So Ruel is up to 3rd, and now, oh, contact! That was very pushy from Van der Neert, really shoving Matthew Williams out the way, like, oh no, you don't. You are not putting your car there, and now Klont goes wide, and Van der Neert has a look. Does he get through? It looks as if he might well do. He does. He gets the inside line. There's contact. Klont and Van der Neert both run wide. Klont is going through the gravel, and Williams is going to get past both of them. He does. And also look at Patrick Kraus up into 6th. This is a great position for Patrick Kraus, who I don't really think even finished in the top 10 in race 1. but he's now up to 6th. So this has been a very good start from Patrick Kraus, and he's now ahead of Klont and also Van der Neert, who lost out in that, as Brugman pulls a move on Nash to get himself up into 11th. And Holmes is still in 13th for now. Very rally-ish line from Jarek Janik, as Hut and Ruda are side by side for 16th. And Hut gets it on the inside. So, no, Ruda rather. Ruda gets it on the inside. Now takes Janet's rally-ish line. And might well lose out again. Unfortunately, it looks as if Potters has dropped behind a bit. He is in last position out of the runners so far. Now, what will the gap between the leaders be as we pull out this time around? It is, almost 7/10 of a second. So really not close at all. And Shrelenovic really does still have the slipstream from Keersmakers. You saw he got very close in the braking zone there. So Shrelenovic certainly has not given up yet. And and we got a move in the background. That's Williams side by side with Van der Neert, and Williams does keep it for now. So Williams has 4th position. Now Keersmakers and Shrelenovic running away with it at the moment. They're about 5 seconds ahead of the rest of the pack, but between them is about 6/10 of a second. So really not much at all. Shrelenovic makes a big mistake though. Weaves one way and then the next over the curb and locks up. Does very well not to lose it, but he's going to have lost time there to Laurent Keersmakers slightly, and locks up again. Out onto the back straight we go. He will be getting as much of the slipstream as he can from Keersmakers ahead. Just tucking behind the path in the air created by the car ahead. Less air resistance when you're following a car ahead of you. And Keersmakers providing a good slipstream for Shrelenovic, but he's a bit too far ahead for now for Shrelenovic really to make a move. He's locked up into the final corner again. So Shrelenovic, who I said has been locking up all weekend, or all Wednesday as it is, has had another brief lock up. And what's the gap this time through? I expect it's come out a bit. It has to over a second now. And the gap to 3rd, 4.9 seconds. Also, we've seen a move now between Van der Neert and Williams. So Van der Neert has gone for Williams. He's got him on the straight. And Williams is trying to get it back now. But it looks as if Van der Neert, our race 1 winner, has just managed to out-drag Matthew Williams and get that place. Also side by side for 7th, Dan Hutton. Gerrit de Vries, there's a big spin in the background. Ryan Nash goes over the inside ahead of Jonathan Holmes and spins again. And that might well be that his tyres are completely shot by that big sideways excursion just now. And he drops down into 13th place now behind Jarek Janik. So that's cost him a lot of time as Brugman now gets past Engelsiepen. And that was a shame for Nash, as Williams is still looking at the rear of Danny Van der Neert's car. Very aggressive line from Matthew Williams. Locks up. No, that's Van der Neert locking up. And this might well be a good run for Williams, although Van der Neert has placed his car exactly where he needs to. And Williams needs to find any space now. He's got to the inside. That's a good spot to find that gap there. But he has to back out of it. That's a difficult corner to overtake at, that long sweeping left-hander, and he doesn't get through this time around. Got very close though. We're about 50% of the race through. Of course, no mandatory pit stop in this race, and we're only going to be seeing drivers pitting if they're or if they have bad damage. Now, Williams, will he be able to attack as we head down the start-finish straight this time through? He'll have the slipstream, and he'll be close, but will he be able to attack down into turn 1? Van der Neert certainly thinks he's a threat. He's pulling over to break the toe. But Williams not close enough yet. Remember, there's another long straight coming up pretty much now. Van der Neert's taking a bit too much curb, I'd say, although Williams gets slightly sideways. Ooh, side by side again is Brugman and de Vries. And Brugman gets it for 7th now. So Brugman, who of course dropped right back to the back of the order after lap 1, making his way back through the order again, but de Vries is really fighting with him here. not wanting to let him go. Whoa, Williams is off. Williams, you saw him having a slight twitch just as I switched the camera to him, and just lost control of the car and went off. But it was he did very well to keep the car pointing in a straight line and stop it from spinning around. So he did that very well, but he has lost out on a good chunk of time there, which is a shame. So Williams dropping back now from Danny van der Neert. But that's much better than spinning and losing several positions, so he did well to hold that. Now through the top end of the course, through the penultimate corner, Matthew Williams in 5th position and has another slight twitch. These cars are very twitchy naturally, so we will be seeing that quite a lot in this race. And he is following the car ahead of Danny van der Neert. Although not as closely as he was before this lap, he will certainly be wanting to bring that advantage back down again. And what was it this time through? Well, it was about 1.5 seconds, possibly a bit over. Oh, as also wide in the background has gone Patrick Kraus, but he's still doing a brilliant job to be in 6th position. I'm just going to look at his championship results so far, actually, because I don't think he's got anywhere near close to 6th. So this will be a brilliant result for him if he does pull it off. In fact, his best result so far is 8th. So this would be a good result, a very good result, if he was to pull it off. Let's look for where the good battles are here. Well, Williams is off again! Williams has gone off in exactly the same place, but this time it looks as if he's actually spun it. Now, we didn't see how that happened, and I don't have a replay camera, I'm afraid. But Matthew Williams, I'm afraid, has spun the car around, or something of the sort, and has lost a place to De Vries, to Brugman, and to Kraus, who's now in 5th position. What a race from Patrick Kraus. That is a very good result if he can make it stick. Now, will Matthew Williams immediately launch another attack on Gerrit De Vries? He will be wanting to launch one as quickly as he possibly can. And it would be interesting to see just why that has happened, and why we saw him stopped off the road. It was an interesting place to go off if it was an error. Although De Vries has made a slight mistake here with a slight lock-up, and Williams is going to come straight back at him here as he goes to the inside of the final corner. Does he outbrake him? No, De Vries gets the line. Williams will have to use the slipstream down this next straight. As also side by side are Holmes and Engelsiepen, but it looks as if Holmes gets that place. Now, does Williams launch on Gerrit De Vries? No, he doesn't. Not this time around anyway, but again, there is another long straight about to follow. Here it comes. Oh, off in the background, I saw a car spinning. It's Dan Hurt. So Hurt, who was running in 11th, reverses quite a long way around the corner. Will he lose a place? No, Jacob Peck's too far back, but that's not going to do his tyres any good, having that big spin there. So, unfortunate for Dan Hurt, but at least he didn't lose a position as Gerrit De Vries runs over the curb and now loses the place to Matthew Williams. It was a matter of when, not if, and when was just then, as Williams has another slight twitch there. So Williams gets back past Gerrit De Vries. His next target is Niels Brugman, although he does look up slightly. And how much time does he have to do it in? About a quarter of the race, so not long at all. That'll be about 3 laps. Whoa, as very wide now goes Gerrit De Vries off the road, and he might well come under attack from Jonathan Holmes on this lap. Holmes is certainly close. Will he be able to launch to the inside here? It's an ambitious move. I've seen it made stick in the past, although not this time around. He will get the run out of the penultimate corner and have a look there as he bounces over the bumps. Very bumpy at that point in the circuit. It's almost as if the track has been raked up slightly by the aerodynamics of cars constantly braking there. And over time that place has got ever more bumpy. Now Jonathan Holmes pulls to the inside of Gerrit De Vries, but he will be too far back. We had a slight lock-up from Matthew Williams. And Holmes is going to have to settle for 9th for now, but certainly not for long, because he will have an attack opportunity as soon as he possibly can. And knowing Holmes, that won't be long. Slight lock-up again for Matthew Williams. Struggles to get the power down, but does. And Holmes is still just following De Vries for now. So the order, with just under 20% of the race remaining, is Keersmakers leading from Krelinovic, Ruhr, Van der Neert, Kraus, Brugman, Williams, De Vries, Holmes and Engelsiepen. Those are the top 10. Have we lost any more cars? I hope we haven't. Janet is pitting with damage. That's a front wing missing. So Janet, I'm afraid, is well and truly out of the running order. But it looks as if we still have 18 out of 19 cars remaining. Of course, with Casper Unwin being our only retirement early on in this race. Now, De Vries still holding off Jonathan Holmes, but Holmes will have the slipstream for 3 long straights here. So will he be able to get through on any one of them? Does De Vries lock up? No, he doesn't. Does he run over the curb? No, he doesn't. So Holmes doesn't have the luxury of having a mistake from De Vries to throw himself at, but he goes for it anyway. Goes to the inside using the slipstream down into the effective hairpin at turn 1. And he does get the move stick. So that's for 8th position, and Jonathan Holmes has got it. He's second in the championship. On points, he's first. That is discounting the first race of 2 here at Sakhir, because we haven't got the results. And I'm not entirely sure. Well, I won't be able to get the results to you before the end of the broadcast, but I will be able to tell you next time who's in what position in the championship. I'm just going to see if they've updated that. I don't think they update the championship standings, that is, until after both races are finished. No, they haven't, unfortunately. I'm just going to keep the overlay up from now on, because it's getting very close to the end of the timer. And in fact, are we on the final? No, we're not near the final lap at the front. And unfortunately, we have lost Nash and Janet now. So Janet and Nash have been involved possibly in an incident. And again, we only have 16 cars remaining. So that means if you beat anyone on track, you will score a point. As De Vries and Holmes both run wide there. Both lock up and run wide. And now Engelsiepen has pulled a move on De Vries. Holmes looks to be slightly too far ahead for that to affect him. But De Vries certainly lost out by running wide there, and he's lost a place, and he's now down into 10th where he finished in race 1. Now, what are the gaps like? In fact, it's very close for second, so Krelinovic and Ruhl are absolutely head to tail for second place here, and they're not that far behind Keersmakers. So if Keersmakers makes a mistake here, then Krelinovic and Ruhl will be right on him. In fact, there's a slight mistake from Keersmakers there with that lockup, but that won't be enough to really threaten his lead yet. Although we'll be on the final lap this time around. So, as we see our lockup from Ruhl, this is the final lap in terms of laps and time. So really not that much time at all now for Krelinovic to be passed by Ruhl. 100% of the race complete, says the timer. Of course, they still have to complete this one lap. And it looks as if Keersmakers is going to win here, but will it be Ruhl second or Krelinovic? Krelinovic is holding on for now. They both lock up through the penultimate corner. And Ruhl is getting a very good run here. Will he have the inside line for the final corner? He's looking close. He's going for it at the final corner. Whoa, he's spinning! No! Ruhl goes to the inside, locks the tyres up, spins the car around. Lauren Keersmakers, meanwhile, wins the race. Antonio Krelinovic somehow holds on to second. Stefan Ruhl is going to hold on to third, providing he doesn't lose too much over the grass. No, he doesn't. So Ruhl does get a podium, but it looks as if he was going to get second there. Has to settle for third. Van der Neert is fourth. And now it's going to be Niels Brugman, who was the championship leader before this race. I don't think he is now. Is going to finish fifth. Then it's Patrick Kraus, Matthew Williams, Brilliant result for Kraus. Jonathan Holmes in 8th, and it's Kai Engelsiepen, Gerrit de Vries. Dan Hutt is going to come home in 11th. Quite a way behind 10th, but that's fine. Still 11th is points. Of course, the top 15 score points in this. Locks up in the final corner. And Dan Hutt is going to claim 11th. Ahead of Jacob Pegg, who's going to be 12th. There's Dan Hutt crossing the line. Pegg is 12th now. 13th is going to be Tristan Potters. 14th, interestingly, is going to be Menno Klont, so I'm afraid Klont lost a lot in that. I'm wondering whether Klont had damage and had to pit, because he's lost a lot of positions there. And Tristan Potters finishes 13th. Menno Klont spins it around out of the final corner, but crosses the line in 14th. I'm wondering whether he was showing off, or whether he did that by just putting the power down too furious. Ruda did exactly the same thing. Hutt finishes 14th. 15th rather, and Ruda is just going to miss out on another point with 16th. And then we had our retirements of Ryan Nash, Jarrett Janet, and Casper Unwin. Now, do we have any interviews today? I think we might do. I'm just going to remind the drivers quickly. So, Laurent Keersmakers wins an eventful race 2, although not so eventful for Keersmakers. He got the lead early on and maintained it the entire way through, and very well indeed. Race 1 was won by Danny van der Neert after a spin from Stefan Rot, and Rot had another incident in race 2 while going for second. Certainly looked like he was going to get it, didn't quite, very nearly did, but just lost out. It was a disappointing weekend, or Wednesday, for Niels Brugman, our championship leader coming into this round, who finished 6th in race 1 and then had a spin initially in race 2. It would have been interesting to see what he could have done if that had not been the case. But he finished in the end 5th, so it was a very good recovery from Niels Brugman, but still not the points that he would have wanted at this round. I'm just waiting to see if we have any interviews at all. I'm wondering whether we do. I think I'll give them until 22, which is about 3 minutes. And if I don't get any interviewees by then, I'll just sign off the broadcast. It's been a very interesting, very incident-packed 2 races. Only 16 people finishing both races. And a lot of points were gained and lost. Just waiting for the drivers. I'm not entirely sure if we're going to get any here, but oh well. I'm just trying to do some quick sums and calculations to work out what the championship looks like now, but it's very difficult to predicting as we have drop scores to put into play, as well as just as well as just the points. I'm pretty sure that Jonathan Holmes is still leading this championship in terms of the points, but whether he is in terms of drop scores or not, I'm really not sure. Of course, drop scores really do mess up the order quite a bit, but still the on points certainly. Yes, Tristan is in the chat. He says, "Shall I come for an interview?" I assume you mean for an interview anyway. Yes, certainly. I've got no one else to interview, so please do. It's in TeamSpeak, so if you hop into the WCS TeamSpeak, I do have an interviewee now.
User was moved to your channel.
Menno Klont. Hello, Menno.
Hey.
So, race 1 went well for you, I believe. Do you think the same thing?
Well, no,
Well,
not really. Well,
okay.
well, I made a mistake in I believe 4 laps before the end, and I lost P8 to what was it, Kyle Engelsieben? I pronounced his name correctly. That was my mistake. I just pushed too hard into that corner, and well, I lost position. Overall, with the strategy I had, the race was not too bad. I only tested today because I was a bit ill. So yeah, P8, P9, actually P9 was not that bad. But yeah, going then to race 2, well, I had hopes that I could do pretty well, but the car was so massively different from the first race, and what I could do in race 1 with the car I couldn't do in race 2. Like I was 1.5 or 1.7 seconds slower than my fastest lap in race 1. So I changed some things to be a little bit faster, to get more out of the engine. But yeah, it didn't help, and yeah, a lot of mistakes, especially spins when I was off throttle, and it was a bit difficult, and yeah, so it was not easy. Well, I want to go get back on race 1. I believe I was a bit well, yeah, in the way of Stefan Rouault in race 1. I was still to make my pit stop, and he already did his pit stop, so I was a bit in his way, and I believe he lost about 5 to 6 seconds, and I believe that also cost him the win. So yeah, of course, I was still to pit, so maybe it was not nice for me. On the other hand, it's also a bit of team strategy. I mean, if you're fighting for position, okay, you didn't make a pit stop, then yeah, somebody needs to pass as well. But yeah, maybe it was for me it was a bit too much on Stefan, so I'm a bit sorry. So yeah, but yeah, otherwise it's also a bit racing. Shouldn't give gifts. So we're there here to fight, I guess. So yeah, that was it.
Well, unfortunate 2 races then. I can tell you expected more, but certainly plenty of rounds to come later on in the championship. So a lot to make up again. Anyway, I said that there weren't many people to interview. We actually have about 3 other people. So I'm going to first drag in the person who's been waiting the longest,
User
who
was
is
moved to your channel.
Tristan Potters, as I mentioned earlier. Hello, Tristan.
User left your
Hello.
channel.
Now, I've spoken to you quite a lot through, well, you being my team boss in the ITC, but never really in this in this way before. But
Yeah.
but anyway, how did those races go? You seem to be getting quite a few good points for your team there.
Yeah, but race 1 was really good. No, I had a good battle with Jacob. For the almost the whole race it was. At one point I thought I killed him, but I didn't. I saw when I look back at the replay. And then it was scared. I was scared that he was gonna overtake me throughout the whole rest of the race 1. And in race 2 I had a bit of a lonely race because in turn 4 I got collided by Ryan Nash. So and after that I did some dumb shit like going on the power too early. But nevertheless I scored quite some points there too. So good race. Both races.
Yeah, it happens, I suppose. Was there contact with Jacob Pegg in race 1, because we saw that he dropped quite a way behind on the final lap. So
on the final lap, no, he he tried to dive bomb me, but he locked his rears, so he spun out.
Ooh, we've seen that a couple of times, I'm afraid, actually.
Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that, Tristan.
Yeah, no problem.
Right. Oh, and also thanks for stepping in when you saw no one else was coming for the interview. But anyway.
Yeah, no problem.
Also to the audience, a little.
Yeah.
User was moved to your channel.
Hello. A little apologies for language, but things like that happen, and adrenaline's running very high. Stefan Roll, hello.
User
Stefan.
left your channel.
Hey, Josh.
Right. So you came into this round in a very good position in the championship. Do you think that that this was the kind of race weekend that you needed to keep that alive?
Yeah, I actually wanted it to be a weekend where I could make a step forward in the standings because it's really close and had some good practice sessions with my team and thought I could go for it, and quality went well. But at the end of the day, a P2 and a P3 isn't. The win still eludes me, so kind of happy because my team won race view twice, Bahrain and Denny. But a bit disappointed for myself that I didn't take the win.
I suppose it's especially disappointing for you that second was very much in your sights at the end of race 2, and then the slightest mistake and it was rained. What do you say about that?
Yeah, this car, it's really difficult to drive, and especially here, I don't know what it was, maybe my setup or the nature of the track, but as soon as you hit the brakes, the rear just steps out on you, and I put a little bit more brake force in for the race too because I saw that everyone around me was braking a little later, but yeah, lost the rear in the last turn. Luckily, I had a big gap to Danny, so I could take P3 still.
Jolly good. And I believe you did move up about 2 positions in the championship actually, because Stefano and Sven de Vries weren't racing today, and with the drop scores, that's going to harm them. So I think you're about 4th in the championship after that. In fact, possibly a bit higher because there were a couple of guys who struggled a bit there. But anyway, thanks for the interview there, and we have one more driver to bring
User was moved to your channel.
who is Jacob Pegg. Hello, Jacob.
Hey, how you doing?
Yeah, very good. So that race weekend for you, pretty eventful, I must say. You were battling with a few guys for pretty much all of it. Talk us through how it seemed from your point of view.
Yeah, I didn't have enough practice this week. Work was crazy, and then on the way here, I was trying to get some more practice right before the race, but I had a snowstorm coming back. But yeah, I just wasn't prepared, but because I kept spinning like other people have doing, the rear's been locking up and stuff like that. So I think if I was a little bit better prepared, I think I can get a top 10. But it was good fun.
Jolly good to hear. And we saw you with on track with Tristan Potters quite a lot in both races there. You dropped quite a way back from Tristan at the end of race 1 there. He says that there wasn't contact, that you just sort of locked up the rears. Do you think you were maybe trying something a bit too aggressive a few corners too early?
Absolutely.
Right.
Absolutely. I was like, oh, this is my chance, because I couldn't catch or make a pass on the last couple corners there, and I got a good run after that hairpin onto the one straight, and I just wanted to get in there because I had the speed, I had everything, and then I jammed on the brakes a little bit too hard, and the rear went around. But I'm just happy I didn't take him with me, because I would have felt terrible. But well fought battle on his part.
Yeah, well, I tell you what, it was a good race nonetheless. You provided a lot of entertainment, you and your various battles throughout it. So thanks for that, and thanks for the interview.
Yeah, no problem.
Anyway, that'll be the end of the broadcast for this week, the WCS League broadcast from Sakhir in Bahrain. So to everyone on the YouTube page, thanks for joining us. The next round, I believe, is in another interesting location. We are going to that's the Megané thing. Where are we going? Laguna Seca, thank you. Yes, of course, we've already been there in the Megans. It was a very, very entertaining race with Megans. A lot of drama occurred there. A lot of curbs catching people out, and with cars as stiff as these, I can imagine that's going to be very, very difficult. It's going to be a tough track, and there's absolutely no margin for error, as I found out a bit too often. But anyway, again, it's very nice of you to join us for this broadcast, and I will see you in the next one in 2 weeks' time. So see you then.